Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this project management discussion panel presented by the Centre for Continuing Education at the University of Sydney.
Then we get to the question of who should be managing organisational changes and what does it mean. So I'd like to draw on some research that I did and one of my colleagues in the John Grill Institute for Project Leadership did. So the first bit of research I'd like to talk about is based on a survey of 455 change managers and project managers, mainly based in Australia. And what we saw was that there were quite big differences in what project managers and change managers were seeing. So we started off by asking, should there be a reporting relationship between project managers and change managers? And we found that our project managers broadly thought that their change managers should be reporting to them. This is not too surprising because in a project management space, project managers tend to be educated with a perspective on hierarchy, organizational breakdown structures, work breakdown structures. It tends to come with a hierarchical perspective. But in contrast, our change managers saw that if there was a relationship, it should be one of joint and equal responsibility. So you can see we've got two different professions coming together. We've immediately got an opportunity for difference in worldview and potentially conflict.
At the top of the list is rational persuasion. Next is inspirational appeal, which we've covered. The other is the key to consultation with other people. And I think that's also changing dramatically as the generations change. So greater consultation is required. Ingratiation still sits there. However, it's probably less so, and exchange. Personal appeal is still there, which I flagged earlier. The next is coalition. Julien referred to John Cotter's work, and one of the first steps in Cotter's model of change is establishing a guiding coalition. So influence is getting the coalitions together who you work with. Legitimating is that legal side. The last one is pressure. Pushing people to do something often against their will. It's a short-termism. It is the ability to get, well, pick up Julian's analogy with this last slide on the boat. It's getting people to love the sea, but pressuring them into building the boat, okay? Whether they'll sail it is another question. So there's a number of influence strategies which can be linked to the power. How effective a tactic is dependent on a number of things, okay? It must be consistent with the social norms and role expectations. And in that, I also mean the cultural norms of the organisation, as well as the greater society norms. The other is you need to have, as a change manager, the power base to be able to use these tactics. Otherwise, you'll come up against brick walls. And all the tactics actually influence the people you want to follow the change.
Well, I think there's a few, but I really tried to narrow in on just 4 key ones in a whole person. We're only as good as our team. My team hear me say all the time, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know if someone is having financial problems. We don't know if their partner is out of work. We need to put ourselves in their shoes and we need to see the whole person and accommodate different working practices. Flexible working is key. There's a saying, death by PowerPoint. And when I think about it, I don't just think about the volume of PowerPoint packs and slides. I actually think about the number of versions and the perfection that we strive for in our PowerPoints. That to me is death by PowerPoint. Let's continue taking that if it's good enough approach, and that trying something that isn't successful is okay, so long as we take those learnings and we move forward. So I'm really hopeful that not just in pure agile worlds, but just more generally in projects and change, that we accept a test and learn approach. We did it during COVID. I really would like to see us to continue to do it as we move through the rest of this year and into the future. And the third one for me is strive to continue to be nimble and let's not revert to the old ways. For projects and change, when we think about governance and consultation, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it as light as it can be while still meeting our necessary obligations. Let's leverage some of those practices that came into being during the peak of the pandemic so that we can continue to be nimble and we continue to focus on the outcomes and not revert back to those practices unless absolutely necessary. And lastly, successful leaders should never assume they have all the answers.
And I think this is partly typical of the kinds of people that are attracted to these jobs, where we are coming into organizations to create change, to do something interesting, to achieve objectives. And then maybe the organization has done its work in that space and it's time to go somewhere else, in which case you follow the adventure, which is, I think, one of the reasons why it's fun to be playing in this area.
It's choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
Any last words, Graeme?
My only words for those that choose to, as Julien used, play in the change management. I've been doing it for decades now, and it's a hell of a lot of fun because you get new toys all the time. And the nice thing is it can actually be picked up and transferred across industries. So the sandpit gets really, really big to play in, kids. So if you do it, enjoy it. I have.
I think I found some kindred spirits here. This is awesome.